There is no doubt we are in for an Empire Strikes Back-like ending, and in this video, I want to explore a few ways Ahsoka Part 7 set up the finale of Season 1 next week, but also Dave's film, lots of parallels to Heir to the Empire, and also a couple of theories of how it's all going to play out. Let's begin with a foreboding line by Ezra near the end of the episode. He smiles at Ahsoka and Sabine after our heroes defeat the Night Troopers and bandits, and says, quote, "I think I might be going home after all. I can't help but feel that once again this is ironically foreshadowing the fact that probably none of our heroes are going home this season. Grand Admiral Thrawn is ready to go, and I've got a feeling our main characters are going to remain stuck for a while." I'm starting to think the episode title of Ahsoka Part 7 might have a more literal meaning than we originally assumed, especially concerning Baylan and Thrawn, dreams and madness. This is how Baylan described Peridea in Part 6. Baylan heard stories about this at the Jedi Temple during the days before the Clone Wars. The Jedi who passed on these stories, who were aware of the legend of Peridea, were probably told of a select few travelers who went to the distant galaxy in search of what Baylan is looking for, who went mad from influence of a powerful Force deity, who is in control of that world. This is the part of the story Baylan omits when he tells Shin about it. Well, is it possible that Baylan is losing his mind because of this? Let's explore this for a moment in the context of Baylan. In the most recent episode, he abandons Shin to go off on his own mission to pursue whatever's reaching out to him in the Force, or what he thinks is reaching out to him. The only problem is, with one episode to go, we still have no idea what this is, and something seemed very off with Baylan. It's either inconsistency of the writing of the show, but what I think is that it's a deliberate wedge being included to throw us off. Throughout the first 6 episodes, everyone was saying how protective Baylan is of Shin, how he would never abandon her, and if the two were to part, it would be Shin's doing. It'd be Shin who walked away, not Baylan. A lot of Star Wars fans were saying he is a father figure to her, and that to him, Shin is very special. And even in Part 6, he told her she was being trained for so much more than just a Jedi. And yet, in Part 7, so one episode later, he throws her away, saying his destiny lies elsewhere. He gave her the cold shoulder and insisted she carry on by herself. You could chalk it down to Baylan sensing that Shin wants something different because he tells her to take a place in Thrawn's new empire. But this doesn't make much sense considering what he said in prior episodes. By now you think he would have asked her, is this what you want? Is it possible that something in Peridea is telling him to do this? Is it the greater power he's seeking? Or is Baylan literally going mad, as the story is foretold? Is it possible that with some Force users, and not all of them, the Force energies on Peridea cause them to lose their minds? Or could it be the doing of the Nightmothers? Are they initiating it to distract him so Thrawn can focus on leaving the planet? With one episode to go, it's interesting they've not yet addressed this, and I can see it going one of two ways. They're either going to explore this in some depth in the final episode, showing Baylan trying to achieve his goals or die trying, or option number 2, Part 7 was the last time we're going to see him for a while, as he wanders off into the wilderness and it's left open-ended. He's off on his own path to seek this power by himself. Now the only problem with this is that when production was still ongoing on the show, when Dave wrote these episodes, they had no idea Ray Stevenson was unfortunately going to pass away. So they may have built up his character to be explored in a separate spin-off, in Dave's film, or something like that. But unless they recast, this is unfortunately impossible. Baylan has been one of the best parts of this series, and the fandom has demonstrated an outpouring of love. Where does this leave Shin? There is no doubt she's going to ultimately defect to the good guys. They might be her only chance to escape Peridea and go back home. I don't think Thrawn wants to take Shin with him without Baylan. His interest is in a master. He deems the defeat a success considering Baylan didn't fight, and this tells me he has purpose and interest in Baylan, but not the Padawan. I can imagine Thrawn chucking Shin away too. She might have no choice but to side with Ahsoka. And a Shin spin-off is something I would love to see. She hesitated when Ahsoka first offered her hand and offered her a truce. But then she fled. She was simply too afraid and too confused, but the seeds have been planted in her mind. As Ivana Sakno teased before the show, we have a lot of sympathy for Shin. From her standpoint, she is a Bo-Katan Jedi, a Jedi trained in the wild long after the Jedi Order fell. She doesn't belong, and now she's lost the only master she's ever known. From the moment Baylan revealed that finding Thrawn wasn't the only goal, she was no longer on board, and now that he's left her with parting words about patience, she could very well become the apprentice Ahsoka needs. Sabine has Ezra now. She has what she's looking for. She's proficient in lightsaber combat, Ezra's lightsaber is now hers, and she's a Mandalorian. She doesn't need to be a Jedi. But if Ahsoka wants a full-on Jedi apprentice who is powerful in the Force, then Shin is definitely an option. I also want to reinstate a theory I posited from last week, that Shin could be the Mara Jade equivalent in Dave's adaptation of Heir to the Empire. Or should I say the threads and plot points they're adapting loosely from that story. But there is definitely going to be more Shin to come. Now, I've seen some fans theorize that both Baylan and Shin are probably going to die in the last episode. Big spoiler warning, they don't. According to some of the early leaks and rumours, Baylan and Shin are still alive in the last episode. There is also a massive consideration talking about Heir to the Empire that Baylan is going to be the Jorah Sabaoth of the story. His solitude will eventually affect him, but as I say guys, it could have a payoff next week where Baylan awakes some kind of evil spirit, some supernatural force, and that could change the story entirely. But it is perplexing they've left it till the last episode, because to me it doesn't seem like enough time. But as we've known right from the start, this was never going to have a satisfying conclusion. This is just season 1. If it was enough to abandon Shin, then from the perspective of Baylan, this force power or whatever's calling to him better be worth it. So returning to the use of the term madness for this episode title and how it's reflected in the episode, take Thrawn as another example. Did you notice that Morgan Elsbeth is starting to question the Grand Admiral? She might think he's lost his edge. She's doubting and questioning his decisions and his grand plan when he claims that everything was just a distraction so he could load the cargo and prepare for their departure. She's got a perplexed look. She nods along, but it's clear she's apprehensive. Thrawn is still a very proficient tactician. He watches the battle between the mercenaries and our heroes, almost like it's a game of chess. And what's interesting is that he's counting on Baylan for that battle, but Baylan doesn't fight. He goes his own way, to Thrawn's surprise. Which is why, despite defeat to our heroes, Thrawn deems it a success without Baylan. And even from his debut in episode 6, fans noted he was not as composed as we know him to be. I understand this could just be his live-action portrayal, but something is off. I believe the defeat at Lothal took a toll on his ego, and he's been basking in his misery and defeat throughout his years in Peridea. This could make him even more dangerous and unhinged when he returns to the known galaxy. And another consideration is the Nightmothers might be aware of this. They're going along with his plan, serving him for now, but when their end of the deal is fulfilled, which is bringing those undead Night Brothers and Night Sisters back to the home world, when they return to Dathomir, when they re-establish themselves, is it possible they're the ones who are going to eventually kill him, especially if there's a conflict of interest when they do return? We often talk about parallels between Heir to the Empire and the Ahsoka show. Well, if the Night Sisters are supposed to represent the Nogri, in the same way Rook killed him in Star Wars Legends, it could be the Nightmothers that kill him in canon. Even though our heroes are going to have a long struggle with him, that could be a big twist coming later on. Maybe he wrongs them and takes advantage of their powers. They might already know this, they talk about the fates, they can foresee the future, and in the same way that in Star Wars Rebels, the Bendu is the one who predicted Thrawn's defeat on Lothal, the same could be true of the Nightmothers here. But what do you guys think? How do you think the story's gonna end for Baylan and Shin next week? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. May the Force be with you, always.